Hi, folks. I'm Christine Weber. Welcome to my weekly live stream. I love supporting mature yoga teachers getting their wisdom out into the world. Today, I want to talk about the difference between pranayama and trendy breath work. There's a lot of breath work out there. I'll tell you a quick story. One of my close friends, family member, actually called me a few weeks ago and told me about a breathwork workshop that she took where they asked everyone to breathe very deeply. So it was and through the mouth, by the way, with the inhale slightly longer than the exhale. And then the instruction went on to say, you keep doing this, you listen to some music, you keep going and you let your body do what it wants to, and you'll have these emotional releases. And she had emotional releases with the work. And so she called me and said it was really intense. Is that something? Should I keep doing it? And, she wanted my advice on it. And so I said, let me get back to you. I was like, do whatever you want, of course, but I'm not the yoga police. I'm not the breath police, but I'll get back to you on what's going on. So then I started to do some research, and these are things I kind of knew, but I compiled it and I put it in the description here so that you can understand what's going on physiologically with this kind of deep breath work. Pranayama, Prachardana Vidaryam Va Pranasya, that's the Yoga Sutra. Pranayama is supposed to be slow. It's supposed to be subtle. You're supposed to extend the exhale. And it's almost always through your nose, unless it's like shitali, a cooling breath, Most of it is done through the nose because the nose and the nose brain, the olfactory bulb, helps to turn on the parasympathetic relaxation response of the nervous system. So it's quite a different response. Like, we're trying to avoid some of those symptoms and mindfully or slowly or gradually integrate the samskaric patterns, the patterns of behavior, the patterns of emotional challenges that people face. We're trying to integrate that stuff, not just like blow the gasket on it. So what's going on physiologically with this kind of breathing? So fast breathing with the slightly longer inhale, what you're doing is you're forcing the carbon dioxide out of the system. You're forcing the carbon dioxide out, which is why sometimes when we're emotionally distressed, we do, or you've just been running a lot, you're trying to get the nervous system is trying to come into balance. The whole physiology is trying to come into balance. So there are times for that. But then when you start doing it, you create what's this imbalance between the oxygen and the carbon dioxide balance in the body. And that's called hypocapnia. There's a medical term for it. It's a hyperventilating response, essentially, and you're blowing off more carbon dioxide than your body is producing. Now, people talk about, lay people who often think like deep breathing is good because we're taking in more oxygen. Well, not really. Like, that's not exactly what's happening. And I don't want to go, I'm not going to go into too much because it's extremely complex. But what we do for our purposes here, that kind of blowing out breath is dysregulating the balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen in your body. And it's not oxygen good, carbon dioxide bad. It's not that simple. We need carbon dioxide in our system. When you have the carbon dioxide levels at a balanced level, the blood is flowing, it's alkaline, the acid alkaline balance is happening. It's even affecting neurotransmitters. So when you start blowing off that carbon dioxide, a few things happen. One is that the blood vessels start to constrict. Even the blood vessels in your brain start to constrict. And this can lead to lightheadedness, dizziness. It could lead to tingling sensations and perhaps even hallucinations, psychedelic experiences. I'll talk about more the cascade of what's going on. But that's the first thing. Blood vessels constrict. The blood vessels are constricting, and as they're constricting and the oxygen is increasing in the blood, and the carbon dioxide is decreasing, this causes the blood to hold on to the oxygen and not send it into your cells, which isn't that of a good thing, right? because you're depriving the cells of the oxygen that they need. The blood gets more alkaline. This makes some of the neurons more excitable, which may also lead to that tingling sensations or even hallucinations or other, other symptoms, lightheadedness kind of symptoms. Um, the other thing that happens is that the brain interprets this kind of breathing as a stress response, right? So that stress response activates the sympathetic nervous system. Now, the sympathetic nervous system is lying with the ganglion very close to the spine, and it turns on fast. The stress response is like, boom, I got to go. I got to do something, right? It's happened to you before where you heard a big, you were like working and, kind of focusing on something, and you hear a big crash and your body does this because that's a stress response, just turning on to adapt to whatever kind of survival challenges in front of you, right? So the stress response gets turned on because of this fast breathing. And so it's going to be activating the heart rate. The heart rate's going to speed up. Blood pressure is going to increase. The stress hormones, the catecholamines, are going to flood into the system. So it's stressful. It's kind of stressful on your system. And so the combination of the sympathetic nervous system turning into overdrive, this altered blood chemistry that you have from the overbreathing, reduced cerebral blood flow, and the cellular oxygen deprivation, all of that together makes some people hallucinate or have psychedelic experiences. And it's kind of promoted. And you see it in lots of different cultures. Like sometimes you'll see it in indigenous ceremonies in lots of different cultures. But right now we're seeing it promoted a lot in these different breath works that are trending, which, actually the first time I heard about this kind of breath work was in holotropic breathing from Stanislav Grof, who I think is still around, actually. He was one of the early transpersonal psychologists. They were all like looking for, that was back in the 60s, like looking for ways to have those psychedelic experiences. Well, working with your breath like this is one of those ways. Whether or not it's safe is another question. And it will not be safe for some people, especially people who have undiagnosed high blood pressure, you just don't know what you're messing around with there. Pranayama, on the other hand, is meant to be practiced slowly with lengthening of the breath and the exhale, with a subtlety of mind in order to create clarity of the central nervous system, clarity of mind, focus, concentration, and then being able to, so you're using pranayama, which is a bottom-up technique. It's a technique that's coming from brainstem processes into the mental centers, right? You're using that to facilitate this clarity of mind that then allows the mind to have greater agency over emotional responses. So I thought I would just give you a little rundown of what's going on there. I hope that's helpful for you. I sent this to my friend / relative to help that person sort of understand what happened with the breathwork technique that they did. But if you're experimenting with these breathwork techniques, my suggestion would just be do a lot less. Like, I love little things like breath of joy, those kind of practices, or wood chopper, some of those quick, or even, like a swinging twist with a, and breathing out. I love doing little quick breathwork practices like that for maybe 10 breaths or 20 breaths or something, because it just gives you little feelings of energy. And it's all that stuff I was talking about is happening, but not in this huge way. But like an hour of really intense breath work, that I believe that needs to be supervised. Like, if you're going to do that and you want to have psychedelic experiences because you want to have this like big shifts, I really think that needs to be supervised, and not just like by somebody who really knows what they're doing, and not just sort of thrown out there on the internet like I see it being done right now. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that, and I hope that the physiology of it is helpful for you. Thanks so much. Let me know if there's other topics you want me to talk about, and please leave a comment, and I'll see you next week. Take care.